I watermark every one of my pictures. Nikon is so much better. No way, Canon is so much sharper. Sony don't have good glass. Your Rembrandt triangles are way off. Only use pro photo lighting. Where are the catch lights? Facebook is the best place to get your clients. Too short a flash duration. You need a lens that can shoot at 1.4. Your ISO is way too high. Think of the noise. That's not how you get your model to pose. Your settings are all wrong. That flash duration is far too long. You don't hold it like that. You're doing it all wrong. That's not how you get published. My workflow is literally the best. Like, honestly, it speeds up everything. I can do my work so much quicker than anybody else. Working for free? Are you nuts? I guess first things first, don't be either of those guys. Like, you see it so much in the photographic world. You share a post on a group in Facebook and like you just fear of, you know, the heat and the backlash you're gonna get because everybody out there thinks they know better. And I think that's one of the problems with photography, because it's so personal. Everybody invests so much personally into it as a subject. It becomes really personal, it becomes very guarded. So then you go out and you post something in a group and before you know it, like the backlash is insane. And you've got all these people that are telling you what is right and what is wrong. Now, photography to me is an art form and it will always be an art form. And as far as I'm concerned, any art form out there is subjective and there is no right and there is no wrong. It's down to the individual to tailor their own style, to produce a style that works for them, whether that's music, whether that's drawing, whether it's photography, whether it's cinematography, you name it. It's totally down to the individual. There's a really famous movie with Robin Williams and it's one of my favourite films, and it's one of my favourites because of a specific scene. And the scene that, sorry, my phone is just going crazy. The scene that specifically is, you know, really brings it to life for me is the scene where he gets them to rip up the page in the poem book. And it's all about the mathematic equation for measuring the perfect poem. Now, like he says in the film, how can you say one is bad compared to another? What is the mathematic equation for good? And like poetry, how is that for photography? It doesn't exist. And I genuinely think if more photographers spent more time investing in the circle around them and sharing best practices, we would all be so much further along. And stop trying to shut other people down, and you make other people scared within the photographic world to share their opinions and you know, embrace things that they've learned and you know, share the art form. And I think, you know, ultimately, if more people spent more time supporting each other rather than throwing stones at each other, they would probably progress in their own career. Because the thing I tend to find is the guys that make the comments the most, and this is kind of a, you know, I'm not pigeonholing anyone in particular, but the people that tend to be throwing the stones are the guys that live in glass houses and they haven't really got massive accolades behind them as photographers. You know, they haven't been published, they haven't worked on big commissions, and technically they're not where they should be. And it all seems to me like a, you know, it's jealousy ultimately, and it's a real shame. And all I want to do is just produce this video and just say, don't be either of those guys. If you've got something and you're proud of it, share it. If you come across somebody that's doing something and you think that they can improve it without being negative, say, do you know what, this is what I do and this is what could potentially help your results. Don't squash their way of doing it, because remember, there is no right and there is no wrong in terms of photography. It's subjective. You know, the only thing you can do wrong is not turn on the camera and take a picture, in my opinion. For those of you that haven't seen the film, I'm going to pop the clip from Dead Poets Society straight after this. Watch it and learn something from it. You know, the thing you need to take away is there is no right and wrong. It's subjective. So stop criticizing other people when you think they're doing it wrong, because what works for you won't work for somebody else, and what works for them may not work for you. It's about being an individual, but in that process of being an individual, don't squash everybody else's attempt at trying to be creative and trying to be themselves, because it is one of the most creative art forms in the world. You know, look at what Instagram has done to the world over the last few years. Everybody is a photographer. Everybody has the capacity to express themselves as a photographer. And imagine if the people that squash everybody else's dreams got in front of that. it wouldn't be here, it wouldn't exist. I personally use it as a platform to inspire myself all day long. And if some of those people had maybe decided not to go down that route because somebody told them that they were using the wrong camera or the wrong ISO, you know, where would we be as a creative group? Hopefully, I got my point across. Quite a passionate thing, but it come about from some negative comments that came about through me sharing best practice on a Facebook group. Just don't be either of those guys ever.
Excrement.
So apparently I can't use the full video from the Dead Poets Society because of some copyright infringement or something. But what I am going to do is I'm going to put a link in the comments below, so you can find a link to it and you can watch it and hopefully educate yourself.